Okay, here we go. Hello and welcome to the Dash podcast, episode 126. I'm Mark Mason and I'm joined by my fellow co-host and amigo, Joel Valenzuela. Happy Friday, Joel.
Hey, happy Friday to you as well.
Excellent. Man, I'm super happy because we have a blockbuster episode. See what I did there? We've got not one, not two, but three Dash Core Group team employees to talk about Dash platform. So let's introduce each one of them and welcome them to the podcast. So first up, we have Dash Core Group, Dash platform product owner, Dana Alibrandi. How's it going, Dana?
Good. How are you guys?
Excellent, man. Welcome back to the podcast. Great to see you. Glad to see you recovered from Dashtoberfest.
That was a rough one.
Yeah. It was, but good.
And following Dana, we have two Dash Core Group Dash platform developers. First up, we've got Ivan Shumkov. Did I get that right, Ivan?
Yeah, that's right.
Is it right for me? Excellent. Welcome back to the podcast.
Also survivor.
Oh, another survivor from Dashtoberfest.
It was tough, actually, yeah.
And also as well, we welcome to the podcast Anton. No, I'm going to get this wrong, so you know, please forgive me. But Anton Suprunchuk, is that right? Suprunchuk?
Well, that's actually right.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Champion. Oh, wow. What do I win? A dash. Welcome to the podcast, Anton. Right. So, man, everyone's talking about Dash platform, and rightly so. The keynote speech by both Dana and Ivan at the recent Dash Convention Europe gained a lot of interest because there was so much information packed into that. I wanted to take this opportunity, and I'm very grateful for all three of you coming on the podcast for this episode so we can actually break down those key features and functionality. And there was a Dash blog post yesterday under the author of Ivan about this Sidechain, which has some great information. And I think that's probably going to be the elephant in the room. So I think we'll probably focus more on that on the second half of the podcast. But just in case there are new listeners or new viewers watching this, let's just take it back to the bare basics and go through each features and functionality. So first up, within the Dash platform, let's just talk about the main functionality and the main features. So let's start with Dash Drive. So who wants to take this one? So basically, can you just give us a brief summary of what Dash Drive is? Who am I going to pick on someone? Okay.
Yeah, it's better to pick.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to pick on Dana. Right. So basically, so in the blog post, the brief summary says the Dash Drive is a document-orientated database for storing and querying metadata, and this is unique, right, Dana? Because it's actually using the masternode network to make this possible.
Yes, it's true. So behind the scenes, we're using MongoDB. So if you're, a developer and you're familiar with that technology, it's typically used in, JavaScript applications, among others. And the fact that it's a document-oriented database is a contrast with an object-oriented database. And it's the storage component of the platform. It's where you will be able to store your application data and your data contracts for your application. That's about it in a nutshell. Drive was originally Ivan's baby, so he might be able to add a little bit more to that. But at a high level, that's what it does.
Okay, Ivan, what are the limitations? Because when I think Drive, and I think most laymen, Joe blogs on the street, they'll say Dash Drive. That sounds like Google Drive, so we can store stuff on there. So, but it's going to start off documentation based right first, because I think when we had you on, you're saying it's IPFS, right? So it's using sharding on the masternode network. But like initially starting off, it's going to be limited to these data contracts with document base for information. But in the future, could it do more than that? Could it handle video, images? What's the limitation?
Actually, the name confuses a bit. I mean, the drive, it sounds like a file storage, but actually it's not. I mean, it's as they say, it's document-oriented database. So basically, you store JSON documents there and can query by fields of these JSON documents in order to retrieve data back. I would compare it with something like Firebase. Is this familiar for you?
Firebase.
Yeah, Firebase. It's a Google Firebase, or MongoDB, CouchDB, something like that. Yeah, and Dana mentioned that now we are using MongoDB under the hood, but this I would mention that it's a temporary solution, and we're gonna implement own storage for storing data specifically for our cases. About limitation, now it's like more suitable for storing meta information and querying this meta information, but obviously you can store files, and but it kind of not rational because the costs of this data will be too high, because we need to index all data, to be able to fetch it back and so on. So, and they have some ideas in the air about storing like solid file storage solution like CDN, but decentralized. But we don't have this feature in the roadmap right now, and it's more like ideas.
It's definitely not a top priority.
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of, like Anton, it's a bit difficult, isn't it? Because it's kind of dependent on how developers build on it, because they got to get these data contracts and they get the fields, and it's how they utilize what they want to store on there. It could be, you could do something like copyright for like documents, or as we've seen in the past before, we've already got the cannabis genome on the blockchain. But if someone wants to build a decentralized application using Dash Drive, you could store anything on there. So in terms of describing it, sometimes it's a little bit difficult because everyone's going to want to use it for something else. And it's a tool, it's a resource to use. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, it's like, pretty much like you can build anything you can imagine with like a classic database. If you set up a standalone MongoDB on your web server, for example, you can develop an amazing application on top of it. But it's just a tool. It's a matter of how you use it. So we just provide like a very basic, some very basic functionalities like the database would provide you. Pretty much like Firebase. I think Firebase, Google Firebase, is the most suitable comparison. It's like, it's basically like a Firebase but decentralized. And that's the plan.
So if I use Discover Dash as an example, say that I was a developer and I wanted to utilize Dash Drive, I would create a data contract and I would create these fields like a database. So I would have like the name of the business, the address as another field, type of payment they accept, maybe other cryptos. So if you think about it in database terms, and then that's what you would create, and then that's what it would store in a decentralized way. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So really, even when it comes to these data sets, it's specific on the application, right? Because in the past, we spoke about like schemas and as a kind of like wizard to help bring people up to speed. But I guess as this evolves and people build on the network, then do you think there will be like a standard? Because when we had Elizabeth Roebuck on, she said that her dream killer app would be a supply chain in medical research or for like medical records. And you could think about all the fields and everything, like name, date of birth, all kinds of things, where you've been, all that sort of stuff. Really amazing stuff. But is that how you foresee it being used and implemented?
Oh yeah, for sure. That's like, it's the main use case for people or for companies or for businesses or for who needs something like this. It's for people who need to store data that can be publicly verifiable, to remove that trust component from the equation. And this is for who the platform is built. I think it's worth to mention how the platform started, because like I received a couple of questions on the forum about why this even need to exist right now. And we started to build it for Dash Pay. Everyone, I guess, remembers what Dash Pay is. It's like a super fluid, payment experience. And the Dash platform initially was like an idea. We needed somewhere, we need to store additional data for Dash Pay somewhere, like contact lists, usernames, something like that. We needed a place to store it. And then we came up with this idea of a storage on the masternodes. And then we thought, well, maybe other people can use it too. We can make it usable for other people. And this even can help Dash, to gather some, adoption maybe, or something like that. And here's the platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually the other people were we are, because we realized that we can build the platform functionality using the platform, utilizing the platform, such as like DPNS, for example. It's decentralized name service. It's basically data contract. So it's a part of the platform, built this platform. And I think it's pretty smart solution, like architecture solution, to use like unified functionality and build the features on top of it.
Well, let's talk about that. Dash platform name service. I think that made people go, wow, when they saw that on the slide, because the way it was described as a kind of decentralized DNS. And that's pretty revolutionary. I know in the past I spoke about like Internet 3.0 and all the things it can open up and explore. But I mean, what gets you excited personally about the Dash platform name service? I'll throw that over to Ivan.
Okay, thanks. So a little bit history. You remember we had the idea with blockchain users like years ago, and the implementation part has some downsides, like storing usernames on the chain. And first of all, if it's on the chain, you cannot change it. For example, you can use some bad names, and we cannot wipe it up from the chain. But in case if you store it on layer 2, like in the platform, you can, as a master node, you can kind of just blacklist this name, don't store it on your node. So and also this usernames leads to, the previous implementation leads to like many implementation of many different logic in the core. And we realized that we already have this logic in the platform. It's actually that's why we built this platform. So moving names from the existing chain from blockchain to the platform to the drive was pretty obvious. So and the idea of usernames become more wide. It's not just like usernames for Dash users. It's kind of the main.
Everything.
Yeah, exactly. So you can register a name for your application, and also you can change the names like subdomains, and even more. We're gonna make it DNS compliant, so you can resolve these names from the browser with some extension, and probably if we buy TLD domain, for example, Dash, we could resolve it right from the browser. These names, like Antonio.wallet.dash. It will be kind of profile of Anton in Dash Pay. So this sounds cool.
I think it's worth to mention, actually, that this is a plan for the future. For the very first iterations, this naming service will be only just usernames. It will provide names for applications, and for users. And for the very first iteration, that would be it. We kind of thinking about possibilities, what is possible to do with it later, but it's more like a concept right now. But we know for sure that we are going to use it for usernames.
So, so just to manage expectations, the first iteration, you expect, we always used to say the tagline, cryptocurrency your grandmother can use, but people will be able to create a Dash account with a Dash Pay username. And I guess businesses will create their own one, like, Adidas or Nike or, along those lines. But further down the line, it could be utilized other ways. This whole identity side of it is really interesting because there have been wallets that have tried to simplify it before, but it's always been like a centralized solution on their wallet, where this is purely decentralized. Anton, how do you see these identities and Dash Pay usernames being utilized by other services? Because, you can create a complete profile with your image, you could have, bio, you could do all sorts of things.
Yeah, I mean, you can. And I think Dash Pay will have some functionalities built in, like you will be able to upload a profile picture, because like if we are going to compete with existing payment solutions, we have to provide some sort of profiles, right? Where you can left some information about who you are, like your bio, for example, your avatar, maybe your website, your link to your Twitter or something like that. And yeah, this is something that will be built into Dash Pay. We actually kind of think about separating concept of Dash Pay and this kind of profile a little bit, creating so other applications can reuse information stored for Dash Pay if the user wants them to. Mm-hmm. And I think, that's another big thing, because it will open future possibilities for something like, I don't know, for example, login with Dash buttons for websites or something like that. This is definitely not something, this is not something we are looking for to do in first iterations, because it's actually like, the possibilities, it's, they are big, but we are very few people, so we have to concentrate on something, very small. So for the very first releases, we will provide, it will be like only profile for Dash Pay, but I mean, who knows how people figure out to use it.
Okay, well, while we're on the subject of Dash Pay usernames, I want to bring Joel into the fold, because one of the things that we're passionate about is the actual onboarding process. And Joel runs a meetup himself. So I want to talk about the workflow of actually creating it. So once this is up and running, the actual user onboarding them to create the username, the workflow behind that, because that is, that's the main target audience, and we want to onboard people that perhaps aren't even in cryptocurrency yet. We want to simplify that process. So Joel, like, do you have any concerns? Like, what would be your dream setup? Because you want people to get the app, create a Dash Pay username, just be fluid and have that workflow. But do you have any concerns, issues, or like, do you have like a wish list?
Yeah. So one of the biggest barriers to using cryptocurrency is getting it, in terms of anyone can download an app, but then someone has to send you some, and that's always the annoying thing. And of course, the barrier to using any fiat currency service is the AML KYC sign up process and all that. And so the thing that I'm hopefully looking forward to is a very smooth, streamlined kind of experience. But basically, say there's a new person who comes to the Dash meetup who hasn't been before. He uses Bitcoin Cash or something, and he just says, like, I heard something Dash username stuff. How can I get on that? So how do I get him set up, and how easy and quick would that be in the ideal world?
This has been a problem that we spent a lot of time trying to address. We've been referring to it as the invitation process. It's like a chicken and an egg problem. How do you get someone onboarded to Dash Pay when they need Dash to set up a profile to pay for the state transition that will store their profile document in Drive? Yeah, so we've spent some time discussing it and articulating it and working with the front end product manager to implement that in the Dash Pay app. Anton or Ivan will be able to speak to that at a little greater depth, like what the process actually entails.
Interesting. So I know we spoke in the past before. I don't know what the official line is, but I've had conversations in the background about the referral based. How do we get friends and family on board? Like you think about the Facebook model. When Facebook first launched, it was only targeting universities, and then you would get your friends and family, or you'd get an email like, "Oh, so and so's just uploaded their images and they've got a profile." Oh, great. I mean, I personally, for me, I would love a solution where I can have the wallet, and if I'm gonna have a contact list there and I'm on my phone, I've got all my friends' mobile phone numbers anyway, and then I could entice them to use the wallet app by saying, hey, if you download this app and create a DashPay username, you can redeem, I don't know, $5-10 in Dash or something like that. That's what I want to see. That's the ultimate onboarding process.
Yeah, so there was a encrypted messenger, I'm sure Mark remembers, that we tried out together, some blockchain-based thing where every single encrypted message has cost a micro fee to send. And so the onboarding process for that was some sort of a faucet that, like, if you were a new user, you could go here, put in a one-time code and get like your first 100 messages free. And then later on, you could have to actually, top up from some other kind of some other source. But generally speaking, I think that for these kinds of things where you need to spend some money of sorts in order to make things happen, in the very beginning, when people don't have any, it's going to be huge, as Mark likes to say, a proper ball ache to get it going. So what you're going to need to do is probably have someone who doesn't mind sharing with someone else. So for example, if I were to get, Mark set up, I would send him $1 or $2 or something worth of Dash. And part of that would go towards creating the username. And then he could just go around and use it. It'd be fine. And then, later on, or if you're thinking of a situation where you needed to do that to run some sort of fun decentralized application, I would have no problem with like paying it forward for just like, if it didn't cost too much, it's like being able to share or pay it on behalf of other users.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of the angles that we've discussed implementing within DashPay for the first version. We've also talked about Dash Core Group potentially sponsoring the onboarding process as well, at least in the early days. And something that I recommend personally for businesses that are interested in developing on the platform in the future is for the businesses themselves to sponsor all of that on behalf of users, like abstract the entire concept of having to pay these microtransactions and hide it behind like a monthly subscription fee or something like that. So depending on what the product actually is, yeah, like maybe a user is paying $5 a month, and the business behind the scenes is using that $5, converting it to Dash, and paying for all of this user state transitions.
Yeah, or it could be, I'm sure, just as part of like a free sign up type thing, like when PayPal would say, "Oh, you get free so many dollars if you sign up with a PayPal account," just because they think they're going to get you further down the line. Could be something like that where you just sort of hide it in your first transaction or something, or it's like, or you load up, or it's like there's specific places you can get your Dash username. Like say, for example, you sign up for an Uphold account, and then they just say, with free Dash username and first $5 worth of Dash, limited time sign up with Uphold, and then it just kind of does that. And then already when you're like hooked up that way, you already can buy more right from the exact same service.
I think it's really important to simplify this bit here. So obviously, to create a DashPay username, it's on chain, right? So there has to be some sort of transaction. But when we say transaction, we're only talking about micro fees here, like a fraction of a penny, like fraction of a cent. So because like people in the past be like, well, I have to pay money to create a username. It's like, it's a blockchain. So you have to do something. But like, I think people get too carried away. So where Dana was just saying where Corp may look to sponsoring it, I know other people saying in the past, well, perhaps we could submit a treasury proposal to get a pot, and then we can take some funds from that, why people create usernames, but that's still up in the air. The point is we can have a multi-pronged approach. If we can have a referral-based system where we can actually mobilize the community to bring people in and create, whether they choose to fund to create those accounts, fantastic, or we could utilize the treasury. The point is we have many, many, many options, and we could do campaigns. We could encourage, as Dana says, businesses to fund that based on decentralized applications they build upon the Dash platform. I think it's really interesting from the get-go. One thing that I would like to know, and I've still not really had clarity on, and I've got a feeling this is probably going to be more for Dana as he's the product owner. So we saw all these beautiful mock-ups of the UI UX, which I believe was done by Chris Adams, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, Chris
Yes.
Adams.
Yeah. So they looked amazing. Now we know that the Dash Pay username, and Dash platform, all those features and functionality that we've been looking forward to for so long, are now going to be implemented into the iOS and Android official Dash wallets. Do you think that UI UX mock-ups, that experience, because we've kind of saw like a user profiles with profile pictures and that stuff, do you think that will be carried across and implemented into the already existing Android and iOS Dash wallet?
Yes, I do believe that is the intention. The mobile wallets aren't my realm of responsibility. Another product manager owns both of those, Brian Foster. And that is the idea, though, that we will take the Dash Pay user experience that Chris created with his designs and then implement that within the native iOS and Android wallets.
Yeah, I mean, the one great thing from this, when that blog post came out, that because a lot of people were expecting the Dash Pay DApp, to be the first one as the example, and then we're taking this part. I was saying that, if you're launching a new financial product, especially an application, you've got to launch it on Android and iOS. And in the past, Apple takes its sweet time to approve applications, right? So already integrating these features and functionality that already approved applications, so you essentially can launch pretty much on similar days, is much better. Otherwise, you'd be launching an Android app version and then you'd be waiting for like Apple to pull their finger out before you can launch that, and it kind of messes everything up. So this approach, I think, is a lot better. And of course, we already have, as we're seeing from the active addresses, especially from Venezuela, people are using these applications and stuff already. So it makes sense. Otherwise, you're juggling like multiple balls, and then you've got like multiple apps. And so I'm guessing that was the intention, just to simplify the process. But have I missed anything else out? Was there any other key issues why that approach was taken?
Well, it's just about reducing risk as much as possible and putting Dash Pay in the hands of as many different users as possible. So going back to your point about Apple approving new applications or, approving a new application in the Play Store as well, just to reduce the risk of delays in that process and to leverage our strengths with our native mobile teams, we just decided to go all in on that approach and get Dash Pay out as fast as possible.
Right. Okay. I want to move to a question. So I actually reached out to the community in the Masternode channel and some other prominent community members to say that you guys were coming on, and if they had any questions, what they'd like to see. And a lot of people are still trying to wrap their heads around Dash platform because there's so much different features and functionality. It's very technical, and I guess most people learn by using things. So until like they can actually get it in their hands and on it, then it's great. But the first question that I would like to ask is, right, here we go. As I'm not highly tech coding savvy person, I would like to hear as many practical examples of what will be possible with Dash platform. So how do you foresee Dash platform being used? And in the most basic terms, trying to explain to someone that's not a coder, not very technical able, but like, how is Dash platform going to change Dash? What is possible?
Yeah, so this is what I spend most of my time doing, is trying to define and articulate the business value of the platform, then explain that to different companies that we're reaching out to ideally get them to integrate. So one of the use cases that we've already described and talked about is Dash Pay. So the ability to create user profiles in a decentralized manner and integrate that into a wallet for a better crypto transacting experience. You could also use that profile as the base of a decentralized social media network. And that's a very realistic use case, but honestly, not one of my favorites. One of the use cases where we've seen a lot of traction is supply chain management. So you would have a product or some sort of good or commodity or something like that, and you would create a record of that product, and you would track that product's movement across its supply chain from manufacturer to distributor to retailer to consumer. And that provides value to all of the members in the supply chain, because you're providing them with transparency about what's happening to the product, whether it's past certain like testing, depending on the industry. And you're also providing transparency to the consumer, so the consumer can better trust the quality of goods that they're purchasing. So it's a way to differentiate your product in a crowded marketplace where consumers are craving more transparency in a lot of the goods that they buy for various reasons.
So it's all about how people utilize the service. I mean, Anton, right? As a developer, people see me as a Dash evangelist, but Dash for me has always been digital cash, right? Even when it was Darkcoin, right? Because for me, when it was dark send and private send, that was the fungibility. So Dash for me has been digital cash, but I feel Dash is now moving into its next chapter, its next phase. And although Dash, we've always been pushing as a payments-focused solution as digital cash, now Dash is so much more, right? Because now Dash shouldn't just be looked at as digital cash, but also a solution for the future, right? And that must get you excited as a developer.
It is true. Yeah, it is now. It will be much more than just digital cash. But I think it's worth to mention that just like I said before, all of these things are started from building, a solution for Dash Pay. And this is like our digital cash mission, because we want to make payments even easier, faster, than they are now. And this is our top priority, and this is why we are building Dash Pay, and this is the reason for the platform existence in the first place. So we are still really focused on this digital cash conception. That is not something we going to forget about. This is still our main feature, because products that are delivered by Dash is still mainly focused only on handling payments. And then it's like, it's a little bit of Amazon way, Amazon is a store, right? It's just a place where you can buy stuff, but actually they outsource their AWS. AWS is the infrastructure that powers Amazon. And actually anybody in the world can use their infrastructure to host any project they see fit. And Amazon did that because they figure out if they build an infrastructure, then they can improve it even further if they give it to people, because people can find some weak spots or something. They kind of benefit from this. And this is the kind of approach we are taking there too. People are using, people will find a lot of ways how to use the platform, but it eventually will help us to improve our payments capabilities even more. And I think that was something that Ryan mentioned on the quarterly call. He mentioned that we still focusing more on payment solution, as we always was, and as we will be.
Yeah, payments has always been the killer dApp, right?
Yeah, right.
So that's always going to be first, front, and center. One of the features that we haven't mentioned so far is the DAPI, decentralized HTTP API to communicate with the platform, as described in Ivan's recent blog post. So ultimately, the thing that's going to make Dash platform successful is getting developers to come and build stuff on it, right? Because we've got unlimited potential, and we don't really know what platform's going to look like, because until people build things on it, it could be anything, right? It could go in any direction. It could go in many different directions. So how are we going to get these developers involved? So we know from the quarterly call, that the most recent one that Anton just mentioned, that Bob Carroll gave the most recent roadmap update. But when do you expect that there'll be the development documentation or guidance or guidelines for developers to help to assist them to build upon that?
That will take a while, I think. First of all, right now, we are focusing on delivering a working testnet. This is what we are focused right now. And when we finally, deliver something, and we will start to pay more attention to the documentation, because we think about it this way. Very first release, very first testnet release is something for enthusiasts, and people will just play around with it and just figure out stuff, and then we kind of can help them a little bit with doing so. I mean, we're always available through Discord, for example, or something like that. But this actually, when you develop in a thing, it's really hard to understand what needs to be documented, actually, because you already know everything in your mind, and from your perspective, it's really clear what you need to do. And this kind of blurs your vision a little bit regarding what needs to be written with documentation. So I guess when we release very first testnet, people will start asking questions. Hey, how do I do this? How do I do this? And then we kind of can figure out what's the demands are. What's the missing parts in documentation. I think Dana puts some docs right now, but I don't think they will be available right away after the first testnet release, but probably shortly after Dana.
But there's the GitHub library, right? You've already started uploading JavaScript to that.
Yeah.
That's open source. That's easily accessible now. And there is developer documentation right now that everyone, not just from developers, but exchanges to all sorts, to learn the inner workings of how Dash works. I think we should tackle one of the questions that was one of the first things that was posed to me when I said I'll take questions for the podcast, which was...
Can I jump in very briefly?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just very quickly, just adding on to what Anton said, we are working on documentation that will explain a lot of the concepts. It will have diagrams and also walk developers through various aspects of connecting to a DevNet and things like that. We are going to release that alongside the first release of EvoNet, and then we will edit it and revise it as we get feedback from people that are developing on testnet. So it's in the works. It's coming.
It's hand in hand, right? So that's perfect timing, because I was just going to say, one of the questions was, is Dash Platform Dev Testnet still on track for December release? Which is always going to be a difficult question to answer, right? So
yeah, December's like what, next week?
So
sorry, I just wanted to give you a heart attack.
I mean, it's, the community have asked it and they want an answer. So is it still on track for December release? Are you optimistic for that? What are your thoughts on that? Who wants to answer that question? I'll throw it over to anyone.
I think Bob will answer this question on quarterly call.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I think actually, as a Dash Trust Protector, I think I'll take this one for the team. So we don't want to overpromise, but what I can tell you is the Dash Core Group developers are working night and day, around the clock. In fact, while we as a community and some of the DFOs were preparing for the Dash convention Europe, there was a developer boot camp around Dash platform where they all met up, came together, and they are working tooth and nail to get this thing up and running. And, you know, we're aiming for December, but if it's not December by any means, because anything can happen, it will be pretty shortly after then. Like, Dana, is that fair to say? I mean, well, look, nothing would be done obviously intentional. We want it to be robust. We want it to be the best that it is possible, but at the same time, it's got to be right. Dana, is that okay with that?
Everything in our yeah. We're doing everything in our power to release by the end of the year, and regardless of what happens, we'll be close at the very least.
Yeah.
But we still have a lot of time before December, so we're going to continue refining our scope, delivering, and seeing what happens.
Well, let's talk about the bootcamp, right? Because I still think there's a lot of people in the community that don't know that, you know, I mean, it's always a bit secrecy for obvious reasons, but I think having the developers meet up for 1 week, 2 weeks to align and come together. Was the last dev meetup great? What was the feedback from that? Was it good? Was it beneficial?
Yeah, all three of us were there.
Yeah.
But I'll let Ivan answer.
Come on, Ivan.
I missed his voice.
I know you're having fun. So, like, did you have fun at the boot camp? Did you get done what you wanted to do?
Yeah. Actually, I'm not sure about the idea of having like boot camp for like a week or something. I mean, right now at least, you know, and because as you said, they have a ton stuff to do right before December. So yeah, but I think it will be really, really helpful, not just for developers, but actually for us as well, just to see these things from another point of view and revisit the knowledge and understand the system completely. And I think from product perspective is pretty important as well. Yeah, and having like several sessions, like I don't know, how to make queries to Drive, how to store data, how to write contracts, will be really helpful for everybody, for both sides. And we should definitely speak about some components, like how we store data, platform state, about this platform chain, and other components what we have, to get some feedback on that. And yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah, I mean, your blog post, there was so much in it. And actually, one of the things that got me excited was the very, very brief mention about the communication protocol. Now, I remember donkeys ago, very, very long time ago, we were just trying to imagine what evolution would be and what would be really, really cool. And I won't name them, but I was talking to a couple of developers, and we was talking about like encrypted messages and communication. And there's so many cryptocurrency wallets right now that the market's completely saturated. But how do you onboard? You know, sometimes you've got to offer something a bit more than a wallet. And I think Facebook has been very good at this. I mean, they acquired WhatsApp, Instagram. They know the value in services and onboarding users. And I've always personally thought, for me, my ultimate dream would be to marry the wallet, the contacts list, and with like a messenger in that as well. So I can have encrypted messaging. Now, I don't expect this at the first iteration, because I think I'll probably give you guys a heart attack. But, you know, there should be that possibility there in the future. And if I can message my friends on that, of course, they're going to be using the app day in, day out. And that's all about onboarding, baby. So I'm going to throw that to Anton, right? So is that possible? Because can you foresee a future where we'll have like a messaging side of things within the app?
Oh, I think from the product perspective, it's like very very cool thing to do, because like Telegram, they are moving the other direction too, right? They have a very popular messenger, and now they are building their cryptocurrency. So it's like it's very feasible way to develop. But I mean, first we kind of go in another direction. We go in from crypto to this smooth experience, right? So first of all, we of course need to build DashPay as a wallet itself, and then we will think about how can we integrate some messaging functionalities in it. I think from the product perspective, it's really important thing. From the technical side of it, we don't have any specifications or plans yet on how to build an encrypted messaging thing into the platform. So yeah, that's it. It kind of will be cool, and I think that's something we will be aiming for in the future. But no, we don't have anything currently regarding the encrypted messaging. Actually, we had some plans before, but it's like then we realized how big scope of work, actually how big this thing, the platform is, and then we'll figure out this later.
Okay, well, let's do a reality check.
May I add something?
Yeah, go
sure.
for it. I was going to throw something anyway, Ivan. Go for it.
Yeah. So this idea of communication protocol came up when we were thinking about payment requests. So when you want to, like the merchant, say the payment request to someone, and someone needs to pay, and it's kind of, we don't need to store this data on chain. It's like ephemeral messages, right? So we realized that we need another protocol, not for the data, not storing the drive, but more like peer-to-peer communication. And it's kind of more abstract protocol, and you can build such features like payment requests or messaging or something else. Like it's just base primitive for that. It's like from technical perspective. Yeah, and as Anton said, we don't have plans to release it in early days, and
but the potential's there.
Yeah. But, I mean, we definitely want this because we want payment requests.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
but we also have to manage expectations. There are very few of us, and a lot of work to do.
So we're just managing resources. All right. Well, I want to play a game. Let's role play. Everyone likes to role play. And so Joel, on previous podcasts, has been saying like his wish like killer app would be like a social media platform. So if Joel was a developer and he wanted to create a social media platform as a dApp, walk us through it. So Joel, in terms of social media platform, I think you was leaning more towards a kind of a Facebook solution more so than like a Twitter. Is that correct?
Well, Twitter type solution is much easier, I guess. It's much, I guess it's less exciting in that it doesn't do as many things because, it's just a little bit more streamlined. But honestly, if you measure my Facebook versus Twitter usage, I'm very Twitter heavy these days.
Okay, so Ivan, how would he go about this? So he could create a app, essentially, create the UI UX, but how would he integrate that with Dash platform? Let's be practical. How would he utilize the Dash platform to do this?
Yeah. So first of all, you need to define your data model, like the structures of data, what you want to store. So if you're talking about the Twitter, decentralized version of Twitter, it's supposed to be tweets, right? So it's kind of messages. These are some title and message. And also probably we need likes, right? And we need replies. So let's keep just two entities, like Twitter, tweet, and like. So yeah, and you need to create data contracts and define these two documents, like JSON documents there. So previously we already speaking about schema, right? JSON schema. So using JSON schema, you can define the structure of these documents, like literally I have a document, this field is title, body, the size is type is string, the size like 255 or something, like it's how you want. And then you need to create identity for your contract. So identity basically is your keys on the chain, right? Your public key on the chain. With this identity, as a developer, you will be able to publish and update this contract. So this key is the owner of this contract. So you register identity and then you publish data contract. So basically you create database in the platform. Yeah. And
what about when it comes to storage, though? Because would Joel be able to store everything on chain, or would he have to have his own server that was holding a lot of the information? How much could he really use in terms of like storage, in terms of IPFS?
Actually, it depends. I mean, it depends on the application use case. I see a lot of cases then people store in Drive, not like the old data models what they have in application, but just more critical for for the trusts and trustness, and what they want to notarize on the chain and make it like transparent and verifiable. And probably some stuff like avatars or something else you could store somewhere else. I don't know, using AWS for that or something like that, and keep just I don't know, like the file hash in the drive of this avatar. So yeah, you need to just to calculate your budget, how much you want to spend, and yeah, basically it's obvious that blockchain storage is more expensive, right, than EC2 or something like that. So yeah, it depends on the case. But if you're talking about the tweet, like decentralized Twitter, I think we are talking mostly about metadata like tweets and likes. So I would store everything in Drive. And actually, we already discussed the example Memo Dash, right? Memo Cache in this blog post. So yeah, we're actually working on this right now, and like as an example, example application, and yeah, we store everything in Drive.
Well, I think Joel had an interesting question before we started about why a developer would choose to develop on Dash. Like, because Joel, you're talking about Ethereum and everything else, right? You had a question you wanted to ask.
Well, first off, I think this might be a good time to have the talk.
The elephant in the room.
The sidechain talk.
Yeah.
Because it kind of builds off of that. Now, first off, there was a nice fancy blog post about doing something called a platform chain, a Dash side chain, so as to store things like, say, state transitions, to record them separately from on the actual proof of work Dash blockchain itself. And there's a lot of people that are like, what, there's more blockchains now? And then some other people saying, I knew it, Dash is going full proof of stake. And just like a bunch of weird stuff get thrown out there by a bunch of weird people. And so first off, can you explain for the viewers at home what's different from a side chain from just like a different blockchain? Like, say, rather than say now Dash created a Dogecoin type blockchain separate and just start storing all the data stuff on the Doge chain, but it's like two completely separate cryptocurrencies. So what exactly is a side chain that makes it different from just a completely new blockchain project?
I think it's worth to mention why this thing exists in the first place, because it's like, because when people hear the word blockchain, they kind of, they really think about, creating a new project, a new cryptocurrency, which is not the case there, because you see, we store, so the platform have a state, it's a database, just as we talked before. And as a database, it has data inside it. It's more like a tree-like structure, and people just submitting some data there, and that's it. But the question is, how do nodes synchronize this state? Because the state is not a blockchain. It's not like something, we are speaking about a decentralized environment where different parties have to agree on what they think is a state. And in this sense, this platform chain, it's basically a utility to synchronize the state, to get masternodes to an agreement on what the state should look like. So it's not like it's not a new project, and it's not even the purpose of this is not to transfer value or something like this. It's like blockchain there is a term in the most technical sense of it. It's an actual algorithm, how masternodes come to an agreement on what the platform state should look like. Basically, it's like each once upon a certain period of time, masternodes kind of taking snapshots of what they think should be a platform state, so-called the root, right? Well, that's a complicated topic actually from the technical perspective, but when we speak about something that complicated, it kind of is. So all masternodes can agree on what should be in the platform state by comparing roots of what they have to root is a very, very small piece of data that it's kind of fingerprint of the whole state. And they basically just compare their fingerprints of what they think state should be. And then those things are chained. So they are blocks because this kind of thing, this process performed once in a certain period of time. So there are blocks and they are chained. So this is a blockchain. But it's not a completely new project, or something like this. It's more like a utility. That's kind of it.
Well, I think it's important to say why, because we're really utilizing the second tier, the masternode network, right, to make this function. So why have we taken? And I thought the blog post did a fantastic job of breaking down the pros and cons of why not. Because one, we're going to have all these extra transactions happening on the network, right? So we don't want to block up and bloat the main chain. And of course, with LMNQs, and we can use a subset of quorums using the masternodes to do this. And, we've got to think about long-term growth and scalability. And we've got the masternode network to do that. And we don't need to integrate miners into this process. So although there may be a few people freaking out saying like proof of stake, no, the main protocol one, layer one, that's fine. Dash platform is utilizing the masternode network as it should be, and it shouldn't come as a surprise because we always knew that it was the masternodes that were going to make possible for Dash Drive and everything else that came with it. So it's just a piece of the puzzle. So really, it's kind of like adding on to it and just making things a lot more streamlined. And if you haven't read that blog post, I really encourage you do. If you go to blog.dash.org, not right now though, after the podcast.
Yes,
I would encourage you to read. And for me personally, at first I was like Sidechain. I got freaked out because Joel knows I'm allergic to tokens and everything else, and I was freaking out. I was expecting the worst. But
he's token sensitive.
Yeah, hyper sensitive.
Token intolerant.
I had to go have a shower. I was like, oh, still not clean. But it makes it, after reading that blog post, it makes complete, total sense. And I really like the way that you broke it down because you kind of gave the reasons why in terms of data verification, the fees and stuff as well, the complexity. It's just a lot more efficient and streamlined. And we don't know what the future is going to hold, but we've got this amazing masternode network. And as Dash platform grows, we're going to have to scale with that, with masternodes and the resources and stuff as well. So it's exciting times. But I do think you guys are very modest, and I like the way that you're trying to manage expectations because you don't want to oversell. And Dash Core Group has always done that. And Joel, and probably more myself, tends to get a bit overexcited, saying like, oh, we can do all this stuff like Internet 3.0 and all this things. It's like, yeah, it's possible, but it's going to take time. And I think, as Anton pointed out, we have resources in the team. I'm just amazed by Dash Core Group in terms of their development. When you look at the price in the coin market cap and there's lots of drama, just look at the development and we're still pushing forward. We're still creating new things and the best is still yet to come. And the reason why I get excited is on the Medium PR side, because I have many chats with Dana, right? Because we're just like, we can't wait for this to go because Dana's going to be on the university circuit. We spoke about hackathons and all sorts of things. So Dana, let's get you back into the fold. So like, I mean, obviously the dev testnet is going to be a learning curve, right? We don't know how people are going to utilize it, you know, good or bad. It's going to be like everything. We learn by experience, but going out there and educating people, that's more your domain, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'll definitely enlist Anton and Ivan and the other members of the platform team in that mission as well. But hackathons, working with different universities. I actually spoke with a member of the blockchain club at UCLA yesterday, and I was pushing the idea of them using Dash platform and experimenting with it and developing products using it. And the club is currently exploring creating like a voting application, for example, using some sort of blockchain platform. I'm like, oh, well, what a coincidence. The platform would be a great choice for that. So yeah, there are a lot of angles that we're looking at. We're looking at creating developer hubs in key areas, key like cities and geographic areas, particularly in the southeastern and southwestern United States and also Latin America, since that's where most of our target market is.
How about the northeastern United States? So, you know, it would make... Yeah, I mean, like Dr. Tap's right down the street from me. There's a bunch of cool stuff going on. You can actually, once you come up with your stuff and implement it, you can like walk down the road and just use it in a real live environment and just actual test it. And so you can be like me, who's always complaining about, why did the wallet take so long to transmit this one payment? And everyone's like, we can't replicate your error. Like, well, go buy a thing over at that store and you'll see what I'm talking about. And then all of a sudden, oh, I edge case problem that no one knew existed. So yeah. But then again, I'm a constant New Hampshire shill.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't like excluded any areas, and we've actually explicitly talked about Portsmouth as one of those locations of a hub because we know that there's a lot of crypto activity going on there. So yeah, I mean, we're still very much in the early stages of figuring out what our marketing strategy and our promotion strategy is going to be. And once we go into testnet, I mean, that's when things are going to get very exciting for me. And I think the rest of the platform team as well, because that's when we're going to get real world feedback. And that's going to drive a lot of what we do when it comes to communication and future feature development.
I think that's what's going to separate Dash and take us to the next stage. I mean, people in the crypto space already have a preconceived notion of what Dash is, but really we need to get outside that bubble into the mainstream. And those people that haven't taken those steps into cryptocurrency yet. And I think the real way to do that is by offering extra added value. And Dash platform is going to enable these new services. But I would love to get the community involved and just say, yo, community, what dApps do you want to see? What are the pain points and use cases that you want to see? And then let's get them all on a whiteboard and choose which ones. And then what we can do is we can put a cash prize for each one, and I'd love to do like a 2-day live event, right? So then then like developers from all universities can compete for these cash prizes where we utilize the DAO and we prioritize which ones we want the most, and then we can have a 1-day session with people like all three of you breaking down the key features and functionality, and then maybe at the end of that day, just like a Udemy course for developers to say, like, here we go. Here's how you'd make a talking clock, you know, like the Hello World developer thing. Like, here's how you, because the entry point for developers is going to be unique to Dash because technically it's a transferable skill. Where other blockchains, you have to know something specific, like Ethereum. This is going to be open to everyone. So we can have that 1-day period, just breaking down the feature and functionality, then creating a dummy app that everyone can follow through and then understand how things work. And then we can have that like a 48-hour period where everyone else can compete and try and win these bounty prizes for dApps that the community want. And that for me would be phenomenal. It would be Dash-tastic. And I hope we can make that happen.
I would like to point out also that Portsmouth is about 60 miles away from MIT. So it's a lot of proximity to a lot of smart folks.
Yeah, because it's weird, right? Because for the last few years, 2018 was the year of merchant adoption, right? It was about Venezuela. We'll push a merchant adoption, and we had lots of grassroots efforts, and also other DFOs expanding business development. But a lot of that was kind of like consumer activation and onboarding users. But now we're kind of like having to switch up kind of our marketing and PR angle that we need to attract developers in Dash. I want to see a bigger community with developers that are excited, and we need to cater to them. So in some ways, we're kind of like switching gears now a little bit, because it's kind of like we've got this really cool, powerful tool, which I think offers something unique and different to other like dApp platforms out there, because there are other solutions. But I think in terms of barrier to entry and in terms of skill set, is transferable. If you're already a developer that's built, Android or iOS app, you're going to be able to transfer that over because it's based on JavaScript, and most developers now are learning JavaScript, right? It's a very common language, right? And I guess later on down the line, I understand other libraries will be, I don't know if I should say translated, but there'll be other support later on. But initially, it's going to be JavaScript based, correct?
JavaScript, Objective-C, and Java. So native Android and iOS will be able to use evolution features within those ecosystems.
So any developer learning at home, doing courses on Udemy or watching YouTube playlists, or a developer at university is going to have that accessibility to this and can take advantage, right? Is there going to...
And that was one of the big angles that we were trying to pursue when we were developing all of this, is to reduce barriers to entry, reduce complexity, and just make a more positive developer experience overall compared to developing for other projects.
Yeah, comparing this Ethereum smart contracts. I mean, if you want to, you mentioned this comparison, right? How you will build this Dash platform or Ethereum, for example. So you don't need to learn additional language like Solidity just in order to store your data. You just use JSON, what you know already, right? And just need to define the documents. That's pretty easy. And as Dana said, the barriers pretty low here. And every like mid-level developer who is not really experienced in blockchain technologies can use it easily and achieve benefits of storing data on chain.
Will it be cheaper as well? Because they're still going to have to... I guess that's the very, very simple question. It's like, why would a developer choose to build something on Dash platform as opposed to another cryptocurrency project? Is there anything else that we're missing in that? Because, that's the ultimate question, right?
I think something that is... Oh, you go on, Ivan.
No, please, you go, Dana.
I'll just make one brief point that I don't know, I feel like should be obvious, but I've never really mentioned it, is one of the major values of developing on the platform is Dash's layer 1. We have automatic instance send, we have like stable governance, we have continued development, and all of that is part of the value proposition in addition to the separate feature set that we're providing for the platform. So the platform will support many use cases. Dash Core Group is still focused on payments. And in order to pay for actions on the platform, you still need to hold Dash and spend Dash. And all of that contributes to the value proposition.
Interesting. And Anton, as a developer, does Dash platform get you proper moist? Because you've got developer mates. You must be like, this is so cool. But like, is it going to resonate with your developer friends? Because like you're going to want them to build on this, right? So I'm not a developer myself. Obviously, I've done a bit of web design and webmaster stuff, but that's CSS. That's something completely different. That's a different ball game. Like, do you think Dash platform is going to resonate with developers? That they're going to be like, yeah, that's my jam. I'm going to build on that.
Oh, I think actually, yeah, absolutely. Because like, a lot of people actually nowadays excited about blockchain and like, learning something about it. And if the entry barrier is way lower than with Ethereum, for example, because because we're trying to build a platform. We're trying to build the tools, so you don't need it, just like Ivan said before. So you don't need any special knowledge to develop on it. You can use knowledge that you already have as a developer. And I think this makes it even more exciting, because you can do something. You can create a document on the blockchain, and then you can kind of explore how it travels, through the network, what's happening on the inside before actually making a product. So you can achieve results faster, and when you can achieve results faster with lower barrier, it's always more inviting, I would say, or maybe it's like not inviting, but it's more fulfilling when you see a response from your actions, right? Because if you have to learn a lot before you actually started to do something, then I think it's the big problem of crypto nowadays, and that's actually what we are trying to solve. Like you have to learn a lot, and this is what stops a lot of people from actually trying to do something, because like that's complicated. I was like full day at work. I'm tired. I don't want to learn something new, and when it's actually something that you already know, then it kind of changes perspective.
Well, let's have some fun. So say, for example, that I'm a junior developer, I'm at university, and I'm building my first game, right? I want to build a mobile game, because yes, I see Clash of Clans, these are things really, really popular, but I want to do it on Dash platform. So I've already built like all the sprites and stuff and everything else. But when people go into the game, they can create a Dash Pay username, right, to register. But how else would I be able to utilize that? So basically, in the game, you could go on quests or something, and you can get like Excalibur or like a special axe or something. And these could be things that are used on the blockchain, right, for gaming. Is this something, Ivan, that you thought of? Because, there have been other projects that have specifically focused on gaming, like Engine Coin and stuff. But I think Dash actually is probably better suited, and in terms of like the ecosystem as well. So as like if I wanted to build like a DApp as like a game for Android and iOS, how could I utilize Dash platform? I guess I could get them to create a Dash Pay username, but even like items and trading and perhaps even in-game purchases, I could do all that with Dash, right?
Yeah, right. On the last quarterly call, Bob mentioned that gaming is one of the directions, right, where we want to go. And so basically all items what you have, like entities, the access and so on, it's a piece of data, right, what you can store, and this data has ownership. So there's some kind of access control. You can change ownership and sell these items between users. So, and identities is as you mentioned, and Dash Pay usernames. It's pretty fees for the gaming, because there are users, right, and all users will have identities. They need to sign something, and so so you can store the data, transfer this data between users, and I think it's Dash platform is pretty suitable for gaming. And also Dana asked me to do not mention tokens before before this call, but they have some ideas of implementation tokens, but we don't have it in roadmap, and it just ideas in the air. So tokens would be pretty cool for gaming, like fungible and not fungible.
Excellent. Well, I think there's like so much raw potential here. But like I said, it all comes down to the marketing, and I guess we can't really do that big push until we've got all the resources and stuff there. And I hope the community gets involved as well, because we've all got a role to play. Without the community, Dash is nothing. And I think once that dev testnet is there, we can all have a play. And then I hope there'll be people doing Udemy courses and everything else. Just break things down. I think there's a lot of opportunity to utilize the DAO and the treasury to inform this, not just to get bounties for dApps and stuff that we want to see, but really push stuff out there and get things going. Anton, is there anything about Dash Drive, identities, Dash platform name service, or the DAPI you think that we've missed out, or you'd like to highlight that you think is really important, or perhaps we've overlooked?
Let's see.
Or even from the sidechain angle, do you think there's any like misconceptions or things that need to be cleared up where you think there may be misunderstanding?
Well, yeah, just like I said before, there is some misconceptions because of how people perceive the word blockchain. So, well, I wouldn't say that we kind of missed something. It's just, it's just a matter of how deep in details you go when you discuss something. So there is a lot of like this. The whole thing is kind of pretty technically complicated. So actually, if you want to discuss, all the things, we can talk for hours, but that's not not something that we want to do.
That's what scares me, because it could be pretty overbearing.
Sorry.
No, go for it, Ivan.
Anton, sorry. I got a question about is this how we play for using platform? Is it is it new cryptocurrency or what? So it's lead us to the question of credit system. Probably you want to cover it.
Oh yeah. So regarding the platform, there actually will be a specialized token on the platform that is kind of a little bit similar to gas on Ethereum, I guess, because you see, here's the thing. When you offload all the things from the this layer 1 payment chain, and if everything is processed only on the mastnode network, then how do you pay fees, right? Because since you don't do any transactions on the chains, there are no fees collected. So platform actually, I actually saw someone asking on the chat about this too. So there will be a token on the platform to pay the fees, and it will be convertible 1-to-1 to Dash. So this is how it works. You kind of lock some Dash on the payment chain, and then the same amount of credits appears on your platform balance. Then you spend them as fees, and Masternode collect those credits as fees, and then they can withdraw them back to Dash. They kind of, they can convert credits back to Dash again at 1-to-1 ratio. So, so they can get their rewards back. So they can collect fees.
So it's 1-to-1. So it can't be inflated.
It's always 1-to-1.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and I guess this is kind of like, because we're going into uncharted territory, and it's difficult because we still don't really know how these things are going to be truly utilized. But is that going to be from the inception, from the dev testnet? Do you think that token functionality will be there, or is this something that's going to come later on down the line?
Right now, we are trying to deliver this for the very first Evonet release. But if anyway, not really in any way, we will release a technical specification, a documentation on the system and what it should, how it will look like, how the conversions will be made. So we will try our best to actually implement all the things we've planned so far. But if we can't, then there is just the documentation, and then we kind of create this system in a quick follow-up release or something like that.
Okay. I've got a quick question for Dana. I'm going to throw it over to Dana anyway. You don't have to answer. You can throw it over to one of the other two if you're not comfortable. But this was a question from the Masternode channel on Discord. So how do you think platform could be used to create a Dash native stablecoin or stable options in official Dash wallets? Now, people seem to be talking about stable coins a lot, and a bit like tokens, I'm allergic to them as well. For me, that's an interesting question, because when I think platform, I don't really think stablecoin. But I mean, I don't know if Dash Core Group has plans for that, but I'm guessing other people might be able to utilize a platform to do something like that. I don't know. Dana, how do you interpret that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think it depends on the features that we add to the platform in the long term. And it also depends on how the stablecoin itself is implemented. So like Ivan said, I told myself not to talk about tokens. And one of the ways that a stablecoin would be implemented would be, through the creation of tokens. And if we wanted to create something similar to DAI, for example, then we would also have to implement smart contract functionality. And we've very lightly discussed both of those topics. They're not on our roadmap, and we would have to do a lot of validation before we decide to implement those features. But as of now, for the first version, the first release, and also for the successive releases after that, you wouldn't be able to create a stable coin using the platform.
Yeah, let's have a reality check then. Let's manage expectations. So everyone's waiting for the dev testnet, and we've got to wait for platform to really come out first before we get that Dash Pay DApp functionality. So that first iteration from the user perspective in the wallet, they're just going to have the ability to create Dash Pay usernames. And then really the rest is going to be modular onto that, right? There's lots of things to build on, but just from the very first iteration, version 1.0, in terms of users and wallets, it'll be Dash Pay usernames, contact lists. Is there anything else?
Dash Pay usernames, also the underlying identity, being able to register and create a contract. And for the first version of the release, we're going to restrict the types of contracts that you can create to just the Dash Pay contract. And also, if you wanted to create a different implementation of the Dash Platform name service, you'd be able to do that as well. And then after that initial release, most of the work that we're going to be focusing on is more granular permissions for your data, more tools to improve the developer experience. So making it easier to deploy the platform and to test the platform on your local machine, and also just other features related to the core value proposition, which right now is really about storing application data. And yeah, like I hinted at before, we have many realms. I see Ivan wants to add to that, though.
He's raising the hand. Go for it, Ivan.
I just wanted to mention that, we're going to restrict of creation of like different contracts, like user contracts only for Ethernet. And I believe we will provide Dash Network Deploy tool. With this tool, you will be able to deploy your own DevNet and create any type of contracts you want. So this restriction only for Ethernet, for our testnet.
What I want to know, and what's really important for me is that I know you've got the internal dev testnet right now, but we've got to wait for the public one. But what's really important for me is, have you been having any conversations with any businesses to get their point of view on how they could perhaps utilize this? Whether it's, even if it's like a strategic partner, but, because they're coming from their own point of view, obviously they're going to have needs and wants. So I think even before like launching, having people inside knowing what's possible is really important. Are you having those conversations? Are there any businesses that are already looking at how to implement and utilize Dash platform?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been working closely with the business development team, And several members of the business development team have been communicating with companies, explaining what the platform is, and then bringing all of us together into a meeting to explore different use cases. So some of those companies are Dash-funded organizations, and I spoke to several Dash-funded organizations at the Zurich convention, and a lot of interest there. And also external third-party organizations that are interested in developing applications as well as contributing to the developer ecosystem. So by contributing, that would be libraries and things like that.
This is the really exciting thing. And this is why I love Dash, because we're super decentralized. And even though we have like a Dash core group that is our main, cog in the wheel for pushing development, there's nothing stopping anyone else building another DApp wallet, right, of Dash Pay usernames. In fact, I think Dash core group would love it because competition inspires innovation, right? And this is something like Joel spoke about in the past, because there's feature and functionality that he would want. So it actually encourages everyone to come to the party. And of course, other existing third-party wallets are going to need to integrate some of these features and functionality as well. I mean, Joel, we spoke about this in the past. I mean, we get a bit silly, like adding like funny noises when you get payments and things like that. But like, some people like that. I mean, Joel, is there anything? I mean, we speak about private send and having that integrated and stuff all the time, but is there anything else like in terms of a wallet that you would want to see in addition? Oh, one sec, Joel, you're muted.
Yes. So obviously one thing that I think would be huge would be, one thing a lot of people are demanding is something sort of like what the Mycelium wallet has, as far as be able to buy peer-to-peer close to you. And something like that, we've had peer-to-peer Dash trading things before, and there just hasn't been enough traction for them. But if you had it actually in the wallet itself, especially if there's like the privacy wallet where people just say, yeah, I want to be able to mix right in the wallet, I want to be able to go buy privately here or there, and I want to, that kind of stuff. I think that would be something that a lot of people would love, especially for the hardcore people, a coin control enabled Dash wallet, which people are still complaining about.
You can do so much because because the Dash Pay DApp, or essentially the features and functionality is going to be open source. So any business model can utilize it. You could be an exchange or a payment processor and create a wallet with your exchange, allowing people to buy Dash or cryptocurrency on platform, but give them the wallet functionality of creating a Dash Pay username and stuff as well. So it all depends on your point of view. And of course, as I said before, I'm a free market person, right? Free market capitalist. I would encourage everyone to make as many wallets as possible and fork them off, because ultimately that's how we get the best product possible. So we're in interesting times. And I think for exchanges and stuff as well, it's like whoever comes in first and really pushes that forward, I think it is great. We've seen, just myself personally, of course, I rep the official Dash wallets, but I'm also a big fan of the Edge wallet. And we have to recognize a lot of people in the cryptocurrency space now have a portfolio. They hold multiple different coins, and they want that feature and functionality to be able to buy, sell, trade, use gift cards, and send to friends and family, but also have the user friendliness of having like a username and a password to be able to delete the app and reinstall it.
That's another thing. What about a Dash Pay DApp that's a multi-coin wallet? Now, I heard rumors somewhere that the whole functionality for for usernames can also be used to associate other cryptocurrencies as well. So say you have a Dash, say I have Mark in my contact list, and he associates his Dash wallet as well as his Bitcoin Cash wallet to the same username, and I decide to just send him some Bitcoin Cash because, Roger Fair just had coffee with me and sent me a whole bunch. I'm like, I don't want this. He says, oh, we'll take it. So I just sent it to him instead, and it would still do the same generate new public address backend and still kind of send it like that. First off, is my understanding correct that that's something that could happen?
I mean, it's possible, right, Dana?
Oh, it is. Sorry, I was kind of thinking that Ivan might jump in.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, it's definitely possible. And the Dash platform name service can be extended in the future to resolve like an Ethereum address to a Dash username. And one of the companies that I've spoken to, actually a third-party company, wants to do that exact use case. They want to use a Dash username and associate all of the coins in their wallet to that Dash username.
Yeah, because that's one thing that I've noticed. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. So yeah, exactly. The idea behind the Dash platform name service is that you can resolve basically everything, any information. It's not just Dash identity. It might be email, I don't know, your KK-based messenger address or something like that. Everything.
Wait a second. Are you saying I could create a Proton Mail type DApp that just worked on the Dash platform, and I could use? That would be interesting.
Yeah, so that'd be fascinating. And for example, I know there's a bunch of different companies. This is one of those things. Is I think there's like a 2 to 3 year that I call a Dash lag between Dash coming up with something great and then everyone's starting to look into it. So I mean, obviously, like Masternodes, like how long was it until people started thinking they needed governance and treasury and stuff like that? It was like, you know, a few years, like say 2015 to 2018. Then like 2018, people started getting into that. And I'm noticing the Dash lag is catching up as far as usernames and such, that everyone's trying to find a way of doing some super simplified kind of way of user-friendly way of transacting. So for example, the Edge wallet has a just username and password setup just to, you know, extrapolate all the private keys, and for the multi-coin wallet, but you can't send to usernames. That's only your login to get in there. You still have to send the old way. And you also have to kind of trust Edge with part of that, you know, because it's just only in the Edge wallet. You're not going to be able to have your Edge username to log into your Dash wallet. It's just not going to work that way. And then you have, say, for example, Hand Cash, which for Bitcoin Cash, and then they switch to Bitcoin SV. You have a little cash handle thingy and contact list and stuff. But at first off, it only works for the one currency, and it only works for the one wallet or whatever supported wallet or whichever one N-Chain, Craig Wright's company, wants to license. And so there's like, okay, well, there are those problems there. But everyone's trying at these kinds of things. And like, what if you could just have a completely decentralized system, i.e. Dash, that just runs the username, and you can just like store everything under that, and you can just associate. You could find a way of developing apps that just associate with that. Then it's like, now you have the one Dash identity, the one crypto identity for like everything. And then you start just using Dash for stuff that has nothing to do with Dash.
There's a password manager. You could do literally, it has so many applications. But okay, reality check time. I've got to come from the skeptical point of view. And I'm guessing,
oh Jesus.
So one thing that gives me pause for concern is we've already seen exchanges take their time to wrap their head around chain locks and integrate lower, confirmation times, right? So when it comes to platform, especially the blockchain username side of things, we're really gonna have to have a really good outreach program to educate exchanges, existing third-party wallets, to integrate the DashPay username. That's going to be a mission and a task in itself. Now, I'm guessing that's more business development related, but they're going to need your guidance and help on that. Because if we really want to have that effect, and people that are elsewhere in the crypto sphere that are using these multi-coin wallets to see the advantages and difference within Dash, we need them to implement that feature and functionality. So, I mean, that's a job within itself, but that's not going to happen overnight. But that's an outreach that has to happen. And I'm guessing that will be something that Dana will be probably working close with the business development team in pursuing exchanges, strategic partners, and everything else. But that's just a reality check that we're going to have to do. It's not going to happen overnight on the first day of launch. We're going to have to keep pushing things forward. And we need the community support as well, reaching out to us in a friendly, constructive manner, may I add. But these are the things that we need to recognize, because if we want to push Dash forward, that's how it's done. Right, Dana?
Yeah, I'll definitely be working with the business development team. I will say one thing though, I'm not as pessimistic about educating people about usernames. When it comes to chain locks, that's a pretty paradigm-changing technology, and the industry is used to the concept of confirmations and things like that. And to be able to tell an exchange that you don't need them anymore and that you're not compromising on security is something that I think people are going to be wary of. Whereas usernames are there are comparisons and analogs to things that are more easy to comprehend. So
in terms of like
ENS, for example.
But in terms of like integration and stuff, do you think that's going to be an obstacle for them? Because they may have to change their UI, their UX, how everything operates within that multi-wallet, right? It's not an easy task to do because they're so programmed and preconditioned to what's been possible before. This is like new territory. So they're going to have to completely change things just for Dash, right? And the Dash for usernames, just for that, to make that work. And I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh, that sounds like a lot of headache. But I don't know. From a developer standpoint, as long as we make it easy and plug and play as possible, and if need be, offer those developer resources to make those things happen, all the better, right? But it's probably going to take some time for exchanges like the big boys to implement the Dash Pay usernames. That's what I'm anticipating anyway. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm expecting.
I mean, we'll have to spread the word, promote the feature, educate them on how it works and things like that, because exchanges don't want to integrate something that they're not sure of. I mean, considering how, sensitive people are about money. So yeah, I mean, I still don't personally see it as that big of a deal, because when it comes to, integrating it in the UI, there'll just be a field somewhere that's, type your Dash username, similar to how you would type in an address, except much more simple. And then behind the scenes, they would integrate the Dash SDK and, point that username to the Dash platform name service. And then, magically behind the scenes, it would resolve to the Dash address. I mean, it'll be a little more complicated than that in actuality, but I'm optimistic.
Yeah, if you think about how, if you create a user account at an exchange, and then you go to your withdrawals and deposit things, typically it would automatically generate you some addresses, right? If you want to deposit or withdrawal. But this time it's going to be different within Dash, essentially, because you're going to have to create a Dash Pay username, and it can't be automatically assigned. But just think about all those extra added addresses that could be created. It's going to be interesting. And that's why I think with the Dash Pay usernames, that's why I'm so passionate about the communications and messaging side of things, because not only are we utilizing the contact list within the app itself, but also your mobile phone number list, contact list as well, and messaging, talking, getting people things. And if we can make it Line, Telegram, WhatsApp-esque, it gives people a reason to use it. Because if you see your friends and family are using it to communicate, you're going to want to check it out. I mean, Anton, although like you're busy coding all this sort of stuff, do you have any like pet projects in your mind, like dApps that you would like to create? Obviously, you want to keep it like hush hush, I would imagine. But I mean, you must have some ideas of dApps and stuff that you would like to create on platform, right?
Oh yeah, just like we were just a little bit chatting in the live chat right now, and this is like creating a multi-wallet is actually something that utilizes, Dash usernames is something really interesting, I think, because Dash platform can be used, you don't have to store only Dash public keys on the. I described a little bit how Dash Pay works actually, why. Even if we have usernames, the payments between usernames are still private. It's because when you establish a contact, you derive extended public key, you encrypt it with your private key, and you send it to platform for another user, and another user does the same thing. So now you have encrypted public keys of each other, but only you can decrypt them. And so only you know addresses of each other, so no other party can actually trace, transfers between you. And this is a very, generic concept, this can be applied to almost any other cryptocurrency out there. So you actually can build a multi-currency wallet that utilizes Dash platform that has no backend at all for usernames and stuff, for contacts and stuff like that. So this is actually something interesting, and I would really love to see something like that coming. I don't think I will develop something like this though, but I mean, who knows, right?
Interesting.
Very cagey.
Yeah, this is something I can imagine. Like if I take like a vision for where platform and usernames kind of ends up going, as when we're talking about currency, right? Part of what makes currency, it means everyone uses it. It's like, use the name like for a social currency, for example. And so I'd like to see the Dash naming system be the gold standard for what everyone uses. So for example, if you're going to have a multi-coin, multi-asset wallet, it's going to be living in the dark ages if you try to just stay with just the usual, you got to back up your keys this way and all this kind of stuff and copy and paste addresses. No one's going to do it. You're going to suck. You're going to lose out. You're going to have to use some kind of a username type thing. And if you're trying to build your own username system from scratch, like say Edge did with their login only for the login side, and if then you're going to also lose out because everyone's going to want to be like, well, mine's compatible with mine, and you need another user the same one. Eventually, you're just going to be like, you know what? 3 other multi-coin wallets use Dash. I'm just going to use Dash usernames, and then it becomes common. But also for associating like user accounts and such, like it's hard enough wrapping. Like I remember when I started using Bitcoin back in 2013, I just had that one address, just the one address with the public key. And I was like, oh, I recognize that one. That one's me. And then when they introduced HD wallets, I got completely confused for a while. I'm like, why is there another address? Why do I have Bitcoin here and here and here? I wanted it all in mine. Like I did not get it for a while. And I have a feeling that I can't imagine the business nightmare of keeping like a list of public addresses or just even extended public keys for customers and just associating with the name and stuff like that. And just that's got to be an accounting nightmare to deal with that. But I would love for say exchanges, like say Coinbase wants to start using Dash usernames. So your front end like login there could be like associated with that back end as well. And so you have like your Dash username for just about every single customer. And it's like now you just get to, when you're creating a new account, all you have to do is just do, hey, I got my Dash username. And like in the beginning, before it gets this fancy, you just say, I want to log in using my Dash username. And oh, by the way, here's my AML KYC identification documents. That's basic. But then later, when we have that stuff starting to be stored on Dash platform and hopefully encrypted with zero knowledge proof so you can't kind of see it, then you could just say, hey, I want to open an exchange account. I have everything. And you just log in with your Dash thing. You just get an account. You don't even have to create an account. You just have to associate your username with the exchange, and then you're just in. And then everyone kind of uses that. Doesn't matter what tokens you're throwing around, doesn't matter if you're sending Monero back and forth to each other or buying and selling on exchanges. Is all done through Dash. That's something that I would see as like an ultimate goal of like how cool this could be. Maybe I'm utopian, I don't know.
Tell me if this is possible or not. So like if I wanted to create a Silk Road on the Dash platform, right? So just so for those who haven't been on the deep web, dark web, it's very bare bones. It doesn't have like scripts and functionality, but you can have like a basic browser. So if I created like a browser-based system that only accepted like basic HTTP and created like a marketplace or just like a browser thing where people can create their own websites and domains. Now, obviously, with restrictions with the Dash drive at the moment, with the masternode network, because obviously they're going to have to scale their hardware to accommodate such a thing. But I mean, practicality-wise, that is possible, right?
Is it a question for me?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, Ivan. Yeah.
It's a trap. Yeah, sure. So basically, right now, like in a drive, it's pretty the old data is pretty transparent there, so you can see which are identity create which documents. So it's pretty easy to trace, and you can use I know like a Tor or something in order to hide your IP address and not associate your IP address and identity in Dash platform. Yeah, in this case, yeah, you can achieve privacy, and yeah, why not?
Yeah, because for me, right now, censorship is such a massive thing that we're seeing, not just from the political sense, but even in the mainstream. It's affecting YouTubers, even people on Facebook and everything else. And I really think the platform could be used as a really powerful tool to even onboard. So even if you get past the payment side of the solution, I think just giving people the ability to do free speech. Like one of the things you mentioned in your blog post was, like the memo, like a Twitter kind of clone, like memo.cash, right? You could do like a Dash equivalent. That would be massive. And just like how Steemit onboarded people, a lot of people that were onboarded onto the Steam platform were content creators, just writing blog posts and things. They weren't crypto people initially, but it gave them an outlet to do that.
Yeah,
and
people like Heidi.
Heidi
and honestly,
off, yeah,
like as far as I'm like, as much as I'm like a crypto nerd type person, as far as cryptos are concerned, I've been very few coins. I mean, I use Bitcoin because that was what was there. And then I just kind of used Dash and experimented with a couple other ones. One of the only ones I used consistently over the years, not so much very recently, but I have, is Steam, just because, hey, microblogging platform, I get to just put stuff up. That's one of the very few non-Dash blockchain platforms that Dash News frequently uses. Am I right, Mark? We post stuff on Steemit as well. And it's not because the blockchain is just amazing. I just love the delegated proof of stake. No, it's just because it works from like a user perspective. It just, as a content creator, someone who does not need to care about Steemit at all, Steemit is something that's usable. So I hope that Dash becomes something like that.
And that's the secret sauce. And this is what I want people to understand, that these DashPay profiles are going to be transferable. So imagine if you did create a decentralized version of Twitter on the Dash platform, where you create a DashPay username profile. That profile is transferable within that Dash ecosystem because you've created that. And like, I don't think that penny's dropped for a lot of people. So even if people just want to use that social network platform, they're already onboarded. This is such a powerful tool. And this is why we need to onboard developers and have all that. And it gets me really excited because there's so much raw potential. I mean, I imagine just from a shopping perspective, like you can have like your mail-in shopping list and stuff as well. So when people do their Amazon stuff, because right now we're constantly seeing banks being hacked, information being leaked, all and stuff all the time. You could just essentially have one profile where right now, most services online, you have to register, put your details on again, and you're vulnerable, right? And it just makes sense to control your own data. I was talking to someone the other day about, I wanted to do one of those 23andMe tests, right? It's like one of these DNA tests.
And so you want to give your genetic code to the state.
And they're just like, are you crazy? Privacy and all this sort of stuff. And someone was saying like, oh, well, apparently there's going to be there's a blockchain project and you can upload your raw DNA and basically if pharmaceutical companies want to mine that, they pay you, right? Because if you use one of these services like Ancestry.com or 23andMe, they sell their information from us. But if you own your own data, so imagine if I created a DApp, for example, on a Dash platform, where because now there are actually products being sold. I think they're about like 10K. I won't name the Dash community member, but he showed me some cool stuff. Where just like 3D printers, they came down in price. Where these hacker groups now are offering to get your raw DNA data, but you could own that within Dash, right? And you could choose to upload that and you could separate your personal identity from it. But if companies then wanted to data mine that and compare other people, you could get paid as a revenue source. And that's one of the missing components right now within the cryptocurrency space. People right now have to exchange their fiat for it. We need to offer ways for people to actually earn cryptocurrency, earn Dash in return. Right now, we haven't got that full circle ecosystem. So I know I'm going like slightly off topic, but
Yeah.
I'm just trying to show you that there's so much raw, unlimited possibilities that can be done here.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is when I'm thinking about an advantage of putting, say, a social media network on Dash. It's not so. I mean, there's a lot of just like, well, it's cool that it's on the blockchain and kind of stuff in the media. But as far as like Twitter works for me, I've never been censored on Twitter. I've never had issues. I know there's a lot of people it doesn't work for, but it just works. But the problem is sometimes I want to send Dash to people, and then I gotta try to interface with the My Dash wallet bot, and it's all clunky and stuff. But like having that integrated payment system into just about everything, it's just like that one login where now I don't have to forget my Twitter password or whatever. I just log into my Dash. I can just send it. I don't have to like add a new thing. And it's funny because I do know some people. I don't know if I haven't paid attention to Facebook lately, but I knew that in Facebook Messenger you used to be able to send money. And I'm sure that was like the origin of the whole Libra project and stuff. But I know a person I know loosely got in trouble for selling some illegal substances peer to peer. And some people were literally paying him on Facebook Messenger for this, which is, I mean, this is like comic relief segment of the podcast because that's one of the most monumentally stupid things you could ever do. But it just shows you that when you're on Facebook and you just hear this guy, sell stuff, you're just messaging him and you're like, I got the money, I'll just send it right. It just, the lure of the simplicity is just so strong of just that it's all there. And so that's one thing I could really imagine for Dash not being used in those kinds of ways, but being used as that it's just like all there. Like your messaging service, your other thing, like especially you're juggling your Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those kinds of accounts. What if you just did the same login for all of them and could just send funds back and forth? And like, what if you're a content creator and you have people tipping you for your content? Like say you create a masterful blog somewhere and then you do a art piece that you upload on your Instagram and stuff, and then you do all this other stuff, and people are trying to send you little tips there, but it all goes into like different pockets and you have to like, figure out where you get this one and that one. But just to have it all in one central kind of decentralized identity and financial system, that could be a huge game changer if we get it. Just like the instant send network effects on exchanges could be a giant game changer where everyone has Dash to trade Bitcoin. If they want to buy Bitcoin at a different price on a different exchange, they just have Dash to where you can move it and buy it at that cheap price and then resell it over there. So that's my big utopian ramble for the end of the podcast because we're getting pretty late here, aren't we, guys?
Okay, yeah, let's wrap this up. So final thoughts, guys. So is there anything else that you guys want to say as a final thought before we wrap this up? Documentation, website, resources. How can they contact you?
Coming. Yes. I mean, feel free to email me as well, dana.alibrandi@dash.org if you have any questions about the platform. And also just like one brief comment on what Joel was talking about and well, both of you guys about decentralized identity. It's definitely like top of our mind on the team, and being able to port your identity within the Dash ecosystem and also outside of the Dash ecosystem onto other networks by conforming to an industry-wide standard that's emerging through the Decentralized Identity Foundation. It's definitely something that we would like. And yeah, I'm super excited by that possibility. A little bit down the line, but
yeah, I really want to ask another question now. Because like at the Dash convention, there was a vending machine, and we're talking about the possibility of having like a beer machine. But where do you draw the line with the blockchain identities? I've got a feeling like this is going to be a question for Ivan, because like you could add your date of birth. So imagine like I could go up to a vending machine that's selling beer, and I could put in my Dash user page. They could have like a camera or something, right? And it could probably check my image if I agreed to it, and it would have my date of birth, and it could approve it. But I mean, in some terms of creating a profile and putting information in there, whether it's like my home mailing address for prep services or my date of birth, there is a kind of like security aspect to that as well. And we need to make sure people are confident in using that. So, I mean, is this something you thought about?
Yeah, actually, This decentralized identity, what Dana mentioned. It's also covered such cases that you can encrypt some part of information about yourself and share this only these specific people, or it's just like it can work like authority. That's okay.
So it's like a permissioning thing.
Yes. So I can say that, okay, I have a drive license, but I don't need to share my drive license with you. It's just the knowledge that I have it, and I can share it with you. Something like that.
So it's like a lot of services now, when you go to use them, you can sign up or log in with your Facebook account or your Google account and everything else. So if I went to sign up to an online service and said, hey, we also support DashPay usernames, I can click that and then I'll probably get a notification, just like when I install like Android app saying this application wants access to XYZ, right? And I can say,
exactly.
well, this service, I want to buy some beer. So in this case, yes, they can access my date of birth.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, so exciting. I can't wait for this stuff. It's going to be amazing. People aren't ready for it. I know they're not, but the developers out there, you got a real opportunity to jump on this. Okay, right. We got to wrap this up. So I just want to say personally, thank you so much to Dana, Ivan, and Anton for coming on. Thank you, gents. It's been really informative. We could go on for hours, and we probably will do in the after party. But I'll let Joel plug that. Yeah. Okay, chaps. Well, I'll pass it over to Joel to do the outro.
Yes, absolutely. So if you like what you saw here, and you only want to hear and don't want to see our lovely faces, you can do the audio only version of this, which Mark puts out in a post every Saturday. And then there's links to iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, all the other stuff. And so you can use that and just listen to our lovely selves ramble about this stuff. And it turns out we have was it over 10 times the downloads on the audio only as we do on the video, which is very surprising to me. I did not expect that at all. But so we got a lot of people listening to that. So if you want to join them, that's how you do it. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to everything. Like the video, comment. And I know a lot of you have live chat stuff. But after the video, open it up tomorrow. Just be like, hey, that was a great podcast. Or that guy looked like he smells bad. Or no, don't say that. But leave some comments. And, subscribe so you get more. There's some people that have no idea that the podcast is coming up. And they're like, oh, snap. I didn't know it was coming up until I got the notification from YouTube. And I just rushed home to do, don't be that guy. Subscribe. And, of course, give us the thumbs up, smash for Dash, all that kind of stuff. And now it's time for what one would call the after party, which is just like this, except not recorded that we know of. And just as many people as you want, just chatting about anything. We don't try to be as polite and censoring swear words, etc., as we do here. But anyway, just like this, having a good old time up until the wee hours of the morning sometimes. But coming and going, doing whatever. And one thing I will always point out that not only have a bunch of great things come out of the discussions of the after party, but this is how the Dash convention got planned. We were just chatting about, what if we did a Dashtoberfest, just Oktoberfest in Europe, we call it the physical after party. That was a code name for the Dash convention, was the physical after party. We just thought, hey, let's after party folks just go hang out somewhere in person. And then Fabian's like, I got the Oktoberfest thing sponsored, and then we could do a Dash convention, what, in 6 weeks? Oh yeah, we could do it. And then we did it, and it was amazing. So never forget the power of the after party. The way you go there is you go to staydashy.com. There it is in the live chat, and that gets you into the Dash Talk Discord, and then just start asking around. It's kind of like speakeasy style, and then we'll see you there.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Joel. So staydashy.com, if you want to be part of the after party, just say, hey, where's the after party at? I'll keep an eye out, and then I'll throw you the link on how to join. That was episode 126 of the Dash podcast. Once again, thank you to Anton, Ivan, and Dana. Thanks, chaps, for coming on. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah. Thank you.
We
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for having
Thank you for
us.
inviting us.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure this won't be the last time either. I hope you found this to be informative. As Joel said, if you're watching this on YouTube, smash that like button, smash for Dash, and don't forget to share and subscribe. And also, don't forget to the notification bell if you want to be alerted about future video content. It's Friday night where I am. I hope you all have a Dash-tastic weekend. But as always, stay positive, stay humble, but most importantly, stay dashy. Have a good weekend, everyone.